A homeless man is trying to sleep near the famous Marine Drive area of Mumbai. He keeps turning on the stone laced footpath from one side to another, trying to find the best posture to sleep in. The night descends further, and the man is dozing in and out of sleep. He is used to people walk past him, without noticing him at all. But since sometime this night, he is vaguely noticing a figure standing on the opposite side of the road as he is drifting in and out of sleep. This figure is staring at him and is sipping a can of beer. The homeless man drifts back to sleep again, only to be suddenly jolted by a searing pain in his stomach and badgering on his face with a huge rock. The next morning, as the first of his goers start to scamper into Mumbai again, into the commercial areas, they are horrified to see the sight of this homeless man dead, with stab wounds on his stomach and a badgered face. The only thing that's found next to him is an empty beer can. I would say the anguishing scream of the man was not heard by anyone in what we call the City of Dreams. So, to you, Vaidehi, and to all our viewers, welcome to the Killer Masala podcast. I am Akash,
And I'm Vaidehi.
and today the story I will tell you all is of a serial killer who terrorized Mumbai. Just another serial killer after Raman Raghav, of course, whom the media called the Beer Man. I will take you today into the dark alleys of media, policing, investigation, politics. It's gonna be a ride. So I hope all of you stick till the end. Um, if you enjoy our podcast, do subscribe to us on Spotify. We will soon be on other channels as well, on Apple Podcast, wherever you get your podcast, and even on YouTube. We also have an Instagram channel called Killer Masala Podcast. So do show some love, guys, if you enjoy us and enjoy the stories.
Yes.
So Vaidik, what are your thoughts?
You just had to throw that City of Dreams in there, no? Just can't stop gushing about Mumbai, even though people are going around stabbing, throwing rocks on each other. What's happening in your city, Akash? Unbelievable.
Even serial killers have dreams, right? They
Oh
get
my.
fulfilled in Mumbai.
Where in Mumbai
Yes.
did this happen?
It's actually happening in downtown Mumbai, which is South Mumbai, exactly near Churchgate Station on the lane that goes to Marine Drive.
Oh, that's like no wonder office goers. That's such a happening, active street. And
Not in the night though.
which year was this?
So this is around 2006.
2006. Okay.
Not that late. Yeah.
So let's hear more. And do we know what beer it was? Was it Kingfisher?
Yes, we do. It's actually a Kingfisher can.
Not a very good time indeed. Okay. Well, Akash, I can't wait to hear the rest of the story. So let's get into it.
Sure, Vadi. Let's satisfy your morbid curiosity for these things. And that's exactly why we're doing the podcast, guys. Just saying whether he would love these stories. So we started doing this. So let me take you back to 5th October 2006. It is 4 a.m. in the morning. A young boy in his 20s called Mayank is making his way to catch the first local train of the morning. He is almost about to miss his train. So he starts running to catch the train. He is on the bridge that leads to the station and he can see the train standing there at the station. So he decides he'll run, he'll get down on the station and he'll catch the train. As he's doing that, suddenly he trips over something. And as he falls down, the water bottle in his hand, things from his bag, they all scamper around on the bridge.
Horrible day. Mm.
Mayank is frustrated with himself. He gets up, he starts scampering those things, he gets the bottle, and by the time he's up, he sees the train leaving the station. So he's very frustrated with himself. And in this act, he looks at what made him trip, and it was a man just lying there on the railway bridge whose leg was a bit outstretched. So that's what made him trip. So in this point, his anger from himself moves towards the guy that made him trip. So he starts yelling and shouting at this man, "Hey, you
Oh,
don't know how to sleep here, what is going on?" And he goes and he gives him a small nudge with his foot. He doesn't really kick him, but he sort of nudges him. But
okay.
to his surprise, the man doesn't move at all. So he suddenly stops screaming. And at this point, there are a few other people who are also going to catch the train, who are also starting to go into the office, now gather around this area. And they also find it a bit odd that the man didn't reply at all, the man didn't move. So Mayank, together with a few other fellow passengers, overturns the body because the body was lying face down.
Hmm.
And when they turn the body, to their horror, on 4:15 a.m. on 5th of October 2006, they find that this man is actually dead. He had stab wounds on his stomach. He was wearing brown clothes and he was lying dead on the passage that leads to Marine Drive station.
Was he also bludgeoned? This is the same body that you spoke about in the introduction?
No, this guy wasn't bludgeoned. So I'll come to that. I'll come to the bludgeoning part as well. FYI, not all bodies were bludgeoned. Some were not, but all of them were stabbed in the stomach multiple times, very
Okay.
violently.
You know, that,
So
so I'm just thinking about times when I have been at the Mumbai, in various different Mumbai stations, and generally in many other stations also, but particularly in Mumbai, there are always a lot of homeless people, or I don't know if they're also drunk people, just lying at the station or who've passed out at the station or sleeping. I remember literally just recently when I was going to get a ticket, there was a man just like passed out next to the ticket line and nobody even bothered. So, like, it's become such a normal thing that you don't really question it. But imagine if something like this happens, how do you, like, what do you do? And how would you ever even get to know who might have done it? Like, there's just so much movement in that area. It's really hard to keep track of.
that's true. That we have sort of a general apathy towards these things. But
Yeah.
also very interesting as well as a depressing statistic is that I think every year around thousands of bodies show up in the Nair Hospital and the Kem Hospital, which are the government hospitals of Mumbai, and they're all unidentified. The cops don't know who they are, and even if, let's say, some foul play is established, they don't know the body is identification. They don't know it at all. So that's a dark side of Bombay for you. So anyway, so the people call the cops, and the cops reach the site. Okay, and when the cops arrived, the cops saw that the body was surrounded by a large group of people. They cleared the area as much as they could. They put up a crime scene tape over there, and they observed that indeed the man had been stabbed in the abdomen, and a beer can from the Kingfisher brand was found next to him. The police took everything into its custody. Now, the question before the police was as to who was this man who was murdered. So, identifying the man was not exactly easy for the cops, but they do identify him. So, he did not have a wallet on him or any other identifying markers as such which stood out. The body was sent for post mortem, and it was found that the guy was sexually assaulted before being murdered.
Oh my God.
In fact, his pant was loose, it wasn't really tied to his waist. So the cops distributed his photo across all police stations in the area around Mumbai, and after some point, they got a lead. They found out that this man was called Vijay Gode, and he was a taxi driver plying the streets of South Bombay. He had two children and a wife, and he used to live in the nearby slums. The way Vijay Gode was stabbed got the police into suspecting that whoever the killer was a violent and a ruthless killer. These are exact words of a cop which was introduced. Which was interviewed back then.
Mhm.
So they are a bit taken aback as well as to why would someone do that to Vijay God? He didn't really have any animosity. He was just a normal taxi driver. So the police start their investigation, but they don't find any leads.
Hmm.
Now, Vedi, cut to 14th December 2006, few months later.
Okay.
A body is found near the Churchgate station of Mumbai. Churchgate is just one stop away from Marine Lines station. So you can take the same train, it goes to Churchgate station and it ends there. That's the last station.
So around the same vicinity as the previous body.
Yeah. So the body was also brutally stabbed. This body that they found on Churchgate station in the abdomen. And guess what, Vadi? When they found the body, they found a beer can of the Kingfisher brand next to the body. Postmortem analysis revealed that the man was also sexually assaulted. This murder was very similar to Vijay Gode's murder that happens a few months prior, right? So now the cops are like, okay, that's strangely similar, but it's a big city, millions and millions of people. So they try to investigate this better, but they are unable to identify the body.
Oh. But the circumstances are so similar. Stabbing, sexual assault, beer bottle.
Yes, Vedi. The cops thought it was a coincidence at first, of course. But in the next 2 months, 7 dead bodies were found near the Marine Lines and the Churchgate station area of Mumbai. All bodies were in a similar state. The murders happened dead in the night, in the wee hours of the night when it was as dark as it could get. They were all stabbed in the abdomen. They were all sexually assaulted. And a beer can was found next to all of them.
All seven. Also, the additional seven. And were all the victims men?
All the victims were men, except for Vijay Gode. I think all of them were like homeless people on the street. So, the worst fear of the public had come true. Mumbai had another serial killer on the loose,
Like
right?
what? 2 decades, 3 decades almost after Raman Raghav?
I mean, Raman Raghav was like pinnacle of serial killers, right? He's really out there with the world's top serial killers by the notoriety he caused and the people he murdered, unfortunately. This guy, there had been some people in the middle, but not much was known about this man. Raman Raghav, he was already a very famous serial killer while he was also doing his murders. Not much was really talked about the beer man at this point, right? It is only after when so many bodies were found and the cops thought there was a connection when the press started speculating as to what's going on.
Um, did they ever do some sort of analysis? And maybe you'll get to this point, but I just can't help but think. The fact that they found these beer cans, did they find like traces of saliva, so DNA?
Not really.
How
I
was that
don't
possible?
think
Were these not like, were they open, like consumed cans of beer, or they're just like,
they will match the saliva with whom. Even if they
but
found something, then you need a suspect, right?
True, but if they had a DNA sample and then, like, I don't know, I'm just thinking about how in like CSI and all, they have like this database through which they can match it, and it could be someone with a previous criminal history. I'm sure there are some sophistications to like all of this analysis now, even in India. So they would have thought about this, I hope. But probably,
Let's
like you
keep
said.
in mind that this is 2006, not everything was in India digitized and electronic. I am not sure the extent of records they have, but no, they did not find any matches, or we're not aware if DNA analysis was also done. One of the themes of this case that you will now start seeing is shoddy police work, perhaps, and media frenzy. So, um, and this was happening in South Bombay, right? So a lot of rich people were running scared.
Mm.
Media reports from back then say that the clubs started shutting down earlier. Police started patrolling a lot. People stopped roaming around alone in the night. And South Bombay sort of became like this abandoned city place in the night. People would not really move out of their buildings. So such was sort of the mass fear that got evoked around this time. So somewhere around mid-January 2007, the cops came across another body
Mhm.
that was murdered similarly on a foot over railway bridge, which led to marine lines, but not exactly the station. It's the one that crosses above the road. But this time, with the body, you would be very surprised to know, they found a note. Okay, the note was handwritten,
Okay.
and it had a lot of gibberish in it. But one thing they could really read out was "Welcome to the clan." So after this note was found, the case became a media frenzy. There was not a single channel that was not reporting this case, right? The news channels would play it in the primetime news and make their own theories as to who the serial killer could be. Every day a new theory would pop up. You know, many news channels said that this was a case of black magic and the killer would sell the blood of the victims to a religious priest who apparently lived in Azad Maidan, which is a ground close to where this body was found. The cops even take that guy, but nothing is ever found from him because there was no connection between the
Wow.
bodies being murdered and this guy. Right? Some media channels are saying that this man had magical powers, just like Raman Raghav. Okay. One news channel gave the serial killer the name Beer Man, and that is how the name got caught due to beer cans being found next to victims. And the name is also a bit catchy for the media to say that.
Yeah, it's such an odd fact that there has always been a beer can nearby. I guess that's got to catch your attention.
Hold on, Vedi. We will get to a lot of things.
Okay.
So the Vedi, you seem very intrigued, Vedi.
Can you just like get to the point? I'm very curious.
So the worst fears of the police had also come true. The case was now a high-profile case, with the media always on their tail. The people are running scared, and they don't have a single suspect. They don't have a single lead. They don't have any evidence. They don't know what's going on. They're patrolling, but murders keep on happening. The police feared now that for the killer, this had turned into a game of cat and mouse, right? That the killer was probably deriving pleasure in the inability of the cops to catch him.
And just about the message that was left. Welcome to the clan. That was in English.
Yes.
Interesting. Okay.
So, in terms of evidence, the cops only had the letter which was found on the body. They had no leads, as none of the bodies were identifiable, since these were poor homeless people who slept on the streets. They had no address, no identification. The police was also unable to recover any murder weapon. They started rounding up all criminals in that area that had a record in the past and started questioning them about the mysterious beer man, where they were, what they were doing in the night. But to their dismay, they found no leads. One senior police officer sort of got a hunch. He observed that out of the 10 recent deaths that happened, dead bodies that were found, 8 were murdered on a Thursday. Okay.
Okay.
So they started patrolling more on Thursday because that's the only link that they could find, right? They also suspected there's probably a very religious man because he murders on a particular day of the week. That's because in the Hindu religion, a lot of people find certain days more auspicious.
I mean, you fast on Thursdays or something. I've never heard of murdering people on Thursdays, but okay.
Anyway, so cut to a few weeks later, on 22nd January 2006, another body is found in the bathroom of Marine Drive. Marine Drive is this beautiful promenade near the sea where you can go sit, relax, and there are a lot of bathrooms there which you can use. So in one of those bathrooms, a
I
body
didn't
is
know there
found.
were bathrooms there. That's a revelation. Okay.
The body was similarly murdered and had a beer can next to it. Only this time, Mehdi, they found a grey shirt near the dead body.
Okay.
The cops were elated with this new piece of evidence and immediately started questioning everyone around the area. Anybody who saw whatever happened in the night at whatever time they were there. One of the locals told the cops that these kind of shirts were worn by the members of a gang called as the Dashrath Rane gang. This gang was an underworld mafia gang and conducted robberies and other crimes. The cops immediately called for sniffer dogs to come there. The sniffer dogs smelled the shirt and suddenly they started scampering, they started barking, and all of them started going towards the east to a nearby slum. That day, on 22nd January 2006, the cops caught a man where the dogs led them, wearing a takiya or a Islamic religious cap, with a big beard and a lean figure. The cops caught a man called Ravindra Controle, aka Abdul Rahim.
What are the two different names? Ravindra Controle.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how exactly to pronounce it. It's Kntrole.
Oh, I thought it was
So,
Control A. I've never heard of that name. Sorry.
so Ravindra Controle or Abdul Rahim. I'll come to the fact as to why he has two weird names. The media went crazy listening to this information. His face was plastered in every newspaper on the front page. He was there in every news channel and every debate. Mumbai, it seems, had got its serial killer.
I like that you
Yes,
said it seems because I feel like this is a complete red herring. The actual person who has left that note saying welcome to the clan has left that t-shirt on purpose just to like F around. Am I right?
whether you gotta stick for the story because of being too Bollywood right now.
Okay.
I wish someone made a story like that, but this is real life, so we're gonna come to what's happening now. Okay,
Okay.
the cops detain Mr. Ravindra Controle. Let's from
Control.
now on, I'll just call him Ravindra.
Okay.
Okay, the cops detain Ravindra and start questioning him. They detain him for weeks. Okay, and slowly, reports started coming out in the media as to what this man is saying. And I'm emphasizing on the media because this case really was media's favorite. They went all over it. There has to be a different news report every time. So, as the cops have detained this man and are questioning him, the public is hearing details of the questioning. Okay, so but they're not always true. They're just printing things for views. So this is what went on. So you know, bit by bit, newspaper item by item, they were all contradicting. Apparently, he wasn't a homosexual, as was previously believed, because the victims were sexually assaulted. Apparently, Ravindra hated homosexuals, as he said. He had recently converted into Islam and he believed that the practice of homosexuality was against his faith. And because of that, he had himself taken upon the task of eliminating such deviants. He hadn't killed 7 people, but according to one report, he had killed 45 people in South Mumbai and flung most of their bodies into the sea. Another theory was doing the rounds that he had killed them because of their sexual orientation. He could take, and some other reports said he wanted to take that blood to the cemetery near marine lines where this black magic angle again came up. So all of the things I said are just media reports. They actually don't know what's going on in the interrogation, but these rumors were spread across everywhere. Nobody had any idea, as to what the truth is actually. So let me tell you something about who Mr. Ravindra is. Now, let me take you flashback to understand who is this man who is detained. Ravindra was a man who was born and brought up in Mumbai. His father had come from, I think, somewhere around the middle north India and had settled here. He was very well aware of all the roads and corners of South Mumbai because he lived in a nearby slum. When Ravindra was young, he was recruited by the Dashrath Rane gang, where he carried out his activities, carried out meager crimes, even threatening, blackmailing, kidnapping. He is quoted on record saying that, why live like a rat when you can rule the streets as a thief?
Who is this Ganesh Gaitonde type person we have? And what is this gang? Like, I thought the Mumbai gang scene was like over in the 90s, but this is like an
Yeah, but
underworld
this
gang
is
you're saying.
actually 90s, no? So
This is a
maybe I wasn't
flashback,
clear, but
sorry. Flashback
yeah.
into the 90s. My bad.
Yeah, when Ravindra is like a more younger person.
Right.
At this point in 2006, I think Ravindra is somewhere around his 40s.
Okay.
So during his 20s is when he was doing all of these things.
And this
So,
gang was involved in like criminal activities.
yes, as I mentioned,
Okay.
they were also, I think, at some point affiliated to the Dawood Tea Company. So it's that kind of an underworld gang.
Okay.
So after a point, when Ravindra is working for the Dashrath Rane gang, he frequents a brothel in Grant Road in Kamathipura, where he meets a lady who he falls in love with. I am not sure I'm not sure if her name is correct, but I think her name is Savitri. He falls in love with her so much that he pays 25,000 to the brothel owner lady and he marries Savitri and starts living with her. Once that happens, he sort of starts to change his ways. He starts saying things like, I'm a family man now. I cannot do these kind of things. And he wants to get away from the life that he got into as a child. Ravindra was then caught for some crime that he had committed and he was put behind bars, where he met a man who was a devout Muslim who converted Ravindra into the practice of Islam. And after that, Ravindra just didn't want to do anything with any crime anymore, is what he says. So he says he gave up all his life of crime, became a police informant, and started living a straight life. This is Ravindra's background. So now let me bring you to the day when sniffer dogs are in front of Ravindra's house and his face is plastered and he's taken to the cops. The cops are actually asking him questions as to where he was during the night. Does he have an alibi? What has he been doing all this time? As per the cops, his answers were not satisfactory. But Ravindra says that he was very surprised that the cops detained him because he had left the life of crime long ago. That was like some past life for him.
That's so strange because you would think that the police would buy this, given that he was also a police informant, right? He must have. There must be some sort of an equation he has with some of the officers.
Yes, but the dogs sniffed the shirt to his house. So the cops were like, we need to really investigate him. And his answers were not satisfactory as per the cops. So the cops go to the court to apply for a narco test analysis to be done on Ravindra, which is for people who actually may not be aware. Narco test is sort of called as a truth serum. It is basically chemicals which you also use during anesthesia, but it's not in that much quantity, it's a bit less. So, in that state of mind, it is said that you speak the truth and your imagination and your other centers of the brain which help you lie are sort of dormant, right? So, they take him to Bangalore and they administer him these drugs. And a narco test is done on Ravindra. The narco test report comes out, and it is said that he has admitted to killing 17 people in the narco test. He has admitted to drinking beer around the murder areas, but he did not admit to sexually assaulting the men. He said that he was not a homosexual. He did not like homosexuals, but he would never sexually assault them. So this was taken up as an evidence. Then the cops made him write a letter to them, and then they matched the handwriting of the letter with the letter that was found on one of the bodies. Remember the letter which was called Welcome to the Clan? And as per a handwriting expert, the handwritings matched.
Okay. It seems more and more like Ravindra is actually involved in the murders and that he's like guilty. But narco tests are not admissible in court, right? Like whatever comes out in a narco test is not admissible evidence.
It's not. It's not. The court doesn't really take it as an evidence. They also say it's a violation of a fundamental right to life and liberty.
Hmm.
But that's a different question for a different podcast. So
So what is
they
the
do the
idea? They were hoping to get more leads from the narco test.
so the cops say that they are sure it's Ravindra, but they're trying to gather as much evidence as they can.
Hmm.
So the narco test, his confession is basically the narco test, right? And the handwriting analysis, and also the fact that his shirt was found at the crime scene. So the sniffer dogs led to his house.
Yeah.
The cops also said that because of his past, he would also be a drug addict in the past. He's known to be a very heavy drinker in the past, and he's also aware of how the police mechanisms work. He was part of an underworld gang who carried out kidnapping, crimes, thefts, even murders for all we know. Right? So he had prior experience in this matter. So all of these evidences and witness testimonies in the sense that people who saw him wearing that shirt, people who said that okay, this shirt is worn by this gang, it's all compiled. And this was taken to the court. It was taken to the trial court in Sivdi in Mumbai. And the trial court sentenced Ravindra to life imprisonment based on the evidences that were presented before it. Now, Ravindra's lawyer was called Sushan Kunjuruman. I will also tell you a bit more about this lawyer. He said he was completely taken aback when this happened. So he appealed to the High Court. In September 2009, all charges against Ravindra were dropped as all the facts that had been routinely shared by the police and the media could not be verified. The court said that all the evidences presented were only circumstantial. None of the evidence had a primary link to the suspect. At one point, the cops brought a murder weapon to the High Court, but it was questioned as to why it was never brought up before, because they said this was found on him when they first got him. And the shirt could have just happened to be there. It could have very well easily been planted, as you were saying, right? Narco test analysis is not admissible in court. And his past life and his past crimes are not what he's being tried for. So the
Yeah.
court acquitted Ravindra. As soon as he came out, he cut his beard, he, you know, changed his appearances, he shaved his head off as well to look less threatening. Because the moment he got out of the court and he started walking around, started trying to live his life, all anyone could ever ask him was, is he the beer man? No one gave him a job and everyone avoided him. Now, the question here is very, which I think maybe you can speak on it for some time. I'd like to know your perspective. Like, did the beer man get away? Is he listening to our podcast right now? Smiling somewhere, drinking a beer, thinking, oh, these idiots, they caught another man, right? Or was Ravindra innocent and didn't do anything?
My God. So you're telling me that after this happened, there was nobody else that they
No
ever.
one was ever tried again for all these murders. Ravindra was acquitted. The actual beer man is still a mystery. Also, let me tell you something very interesting. While Ravindra was in jail, the cops came across 5 more dead bodies that were murdered in a similar manner. But at this point, they were so worried that it could have been a copycat killer. So they don't know, right? But after a point, as the murders had mysteriously started, the murders mysteriously went down.
Okay. My thoughts. I don't think it was him.
Okay, hold that thought. Let me give you more facts.
Okay.
When further investigations were done, it was found that the beer cans on the victims were not actually present in every case. That was just something that the media made up.
What?
Beer cans were just found next to 3 to 4 bodies at the most.
That's a pretty big detail to change around. But irrespective, all of the other bodies, like all the bodies, were stabbed and were sexually assaulted. That is
I, I can for sure tell you that they were stabbed, and the suggestion was that a lot of the bodies were found with their pants loose or were naked in the lower body. So it is assumed they were sexually assaulted. I don't know exactly if everybody went through a postmortem or no, or such. This case really shows you that's what I had to dig the dark alleyways of the police, the media. So even though empty beer cans are found next to only 2 to 3 or 4 bodies max at the most, right? The media made it seem like it's the killer's signature style of murder. And also, there was a very interesting fact that one journalist puts up eventually was that a lot of homeless people use thrown away empty beer can bottles to store water so that they can drink water from it in the night. So, in truth, the cans may have not even been left by the killer. It could have just been false coincidence, which eventually became breaking news by the police. And as there was sexual assault involved in some of the cases, the cops assumed that the murderer was some homosexual beer drinking maniac who was going around Mumbai killing everyone. So it's a very baffling case. It maybe it was him, maybe it was not. But the investigation and the media didn't really do justice for us to answer this question.
Oh man, that is so annoying. We don't have an answer. And that's so unfortunate for all the lives that were lost to this murderer who just clearly has never been caught. Because I don't know, to me, it does sound like there's not enough proof or there's not enough verifiable evidence. Clearly, it all seems very circumstantial to just hold Ravindra accountable for all of these crimes. I don't think there's enough evidence to hold that completely. The narco test does raise a couple of eyebrows, but I don't think that's extremely reliable. And I don't know, it's just it does seem a bit coincidental to me about everything, but now that I'm thinking about it, why was his t-shirt there? Or why would he? I don't know, my brain is all over the place.
So a senior police officer, on the basis of anonymity, actually gave a statement and said that they were sure that Ravindra Controle was actually the serial killer. So he says, apart from his profile, that of a South Mumbai resident familiar with the area, there were eyewitnesses who had seen a bearded man close to one of the victim's body and later identify Ravindra as that man. He also confessed a narco analysis test forced on him, though such tests are considered unreliable. He says, in clear words, I can't say if he was involved or not, but yes, there was strong evidence against him, and we presented in court. Unfortunately to us, he got a favorable ruling.
Wow.
Although I told you that his lawyer, Sushan, he bought the rights of this story. So if anybody has to make a Bollywood movie on it or any other place, he has the rights to it, where he has to be the actor, he has to be paid for the movie. Yes,
He wants to be the actor if this ever becomes a movie.
yes, he wants to be Ravindra in that movie.
Serious, what a random investment. Okay. He's like, this is my 15 minutes to fame.
I can actually tell you more if anyone's interested. He says when somebody asked him that he approached Ram Gopal Verma to make the film, and he says I sent him an SMS explaining the story, and Ram's reply was only 4 words: "Who is Beer Man?"
Oh, wow. Doesn't Ram Gopal Verma live in Bombay?
So he says that eventually he's like, "Can you imagine someone asking who the Beer Man is? Does he not know?"
I mean, to be
Anyway,
fair, I hadn't heard about the beer man either until you brought the story up. So,
I think we were very young also
yeah.
when this happened. So today, the Beer Man's identity is not known. Ravindra, till date, runs an eatery stall which he has bought from his own hard earned money. Some of the items are on loan, and he sells many things along with the vada pav near the Dhobi Talao area till date. He says that the police still bother him if there is any murder that happens, and he is always called in for questioning, whereas all he wants to be is a family man and not do anything with a life of crime. The cops still believe Ravindra was the killer, and the media has moved on to many other cases since then. Unfortunately for us, we will never know who the bear man was.
The fact that it's still not solved, the fact that so many people died, were sexually assaulted, harmed, and homeless people who, in some cases, like, it's a bit telling, right? The fact that there is not a lot of pressure to solve these cases, or not as much in such situations where the victims are not from a very known family or things like that. And the police have not been able to find anyone else or any other leading suspects. And then the person that they did end up finding, they couldn't find enough evidence to really tie the case down. It's a really sad state of affairs. And the fact that we may never know, that's disappointing.
Yep, my heart goes out to them. But yeah, that was the story, guys, today. Let us know what you thought about it. Do definitely write to us on our email ID, killermasala@gmail.com, or reach out to us on our Instagram, Killer Masala Podcast. We'd love to hear from you, any feedbacks, any suggestions.
And also let us know if you like the video format or if there's something else that you would also, maybe cases that you'd like us to cover. Keep us posted.
Thank you for listening to the Killer Masala Podcast. Once again, I'm Akash.
And I'm Vaidehi.
And we look forward to more Masaledar times.
Bye.